Coming up today, the political row intensifies over suspicions the nation's spy agency used hacking software to snoop on South Korean citizens and institutions. Japan's Mitsubishi Materials becomes the first company to formally apologize for using American POWs as forced labor during World War II. But no word yet on whether it will also say sorry to Koreans put through similar ordeals. Plus, a landmark nuclear deal between Iran and 6 major world powers has been endorsed by the UN Security Council. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello and welcome. It's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, July 21st. Here in Seoul, I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to our early morning edition of Arirang News. And our top story this morning, the apparent suicide of an experienced National Intelligence Service agent over the weekend is fanning a fiery political row over the hacking scandal engulfing the spy agency. Rival parties held a meeting on Monday to address the snowballing allegations against the NIS, but failed to reach a compromise. Ji Myung-gil starts us off.
Lawmakers on the Parliamentary Intelligence Committee failed to reach an agreement over when and how to launch an on-site inspection of the National Intelligence Service. The spy agency is facing major allegations of hacking and surveillance on civilians. Rival party floor leaders plan to meet on Tuesday to lay out specifics for the check and whether they'll accompany hacking experts.
The NIS deals with protecting national security, therefore, using the hacking scandal politically and revealing too much information about the NIS could jeopardize this. Rival party lawmakers should work together in finding the truth.
The ruling Saenuri Party is pushing for the inspection to be conducted as soon as possible to stop the scandal from being exploited for so-called political gains. However, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy wants a parliament-level hearing and separate probe led by the prosecution.
The recent death of an NIS agent has raised more suspicions. There are inconsistencies. The spy said there wasn't any wiretapping of citizens, but deleted information related to the agency's operations.
The NIS agent surnamed Im was found dead in his car on Saturday along with an apparent suicide note that denied allegations the NIS meddled in the 2012 presidential election and monitors citizens. This incident occurred on the heels of a revelation that the NIS purchased a hacking program from an Italian company in 2012. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Staying with domestic political news, and the National Assembly's Budget Committee plans to finalise revisions to the government's multi-billion-dollar supplementary budget plan later today. The committee is expected to finalise the details on pending budget bills for 4 parliamentary standing committees. These are the ones that have yet to reach a consensus between the rival political party members. The Budget Committee held a meeting on Monday and was able to pass some bills regarded as crucial to reviving the faltering economy after the MERS outbreak and the recent prolonged drought. However, it failed to agree on other economy-related bills that were considered less urgent. A growing number of academics in Japan are joining the movement to oppose a series of controversial national security bills approved last week by the country's lower house of parliament. According to Tokyo-based Kyodo News Agency, a group of Japanese scholars issued a statement on Monday demanding the bills be abolished. With the support of some 11,000 scholars from diverse academic disciplines, the group says the passage of the what they say unconstitutional security legislation destroys Japan's post-war pacifist constitution and undermines democracy. Now, despite the strong opposition, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe plans to pass these set of bills that would enable the country to come to the military aid of an ally under attack during the current parliamentary session, which ends on September 27th. Now, as the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II edges ever closer, a Japanese firm has made a historic apology over its forced labor of American prisoners of war. Mitsubishi Materials delivered the unprecedented act of remorse. However, an apology for Korea's forced laborers has yet to be forthcoming. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
A prominent Japanese corporation for the first time has acknowledged and formally apologized for the forced labor of American POWs from World War II in its Mitsubishi mines. At a solemn ceremony on Sunday by the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles, Mitsubishi Materials Corporation's senior executive officer made a sincere apology to about 900 POWs that suffered hardships in Mitsubishi mines and industrial plants.
As the successor of Mitsubishi Mines, I offer the most remorseful apology to those who suffered harsh and severe hardships.
One of the surviving POWs, James Murphy, accepted the apology he has sought for decades.
This is a glorious day, for one thing, because for 70 years we wanted such action.
The Japanese government has apologized about the use of U.S. POWs used as forced laborers during World War II. Mitsubishi says it plans to apologize to the Netherlands and other countries that suffered forced labor by the Japanese. But when asked about plans to apologize to the tens of thousands of Korean victims, he said it has no plans as there is currently an ongoing lawsuit on the matter.
I have not much to say as there is a lawsuit ongoing with the Korean victims.
Time is of the essence as most surviving victims are well over 80 years old and may die before they receive compensation or an apology from the Japanese firms. The Japanese government, as well as the companies that use Korean forced laborers, have refused to pay any compensation, saying all issues regarding its colonial rule, including sex slavery and monetary reparations, were covered by a 1965 package. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
The UN Security Council has unanimously endorsed the nuclear deal between Iran, the United States and 5 other world powers agreed last week in Vienna. The resolution, co-sponsored by all 15 members, authorizes the lifting of sanctions in return for Tehran sharply cutting back on its nuclear activities. But it also provides a mechanism for UN sanctions to snap back if Iran fails to stick to its pledges. No further action is required for 90 days now, and this will give the US Congress time to consider whether to give its approval to the deal. US President Barack Obama said he hoped the resolution would send a clear message to Republicans in the House that the overwhelming number of countries recognized diplomacy was the best way of ensuring Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. The United States and Cuba have reopened embassies in each other's respective capitals for the first time since 1961. An opening ceremony for the Cuban embassy in Washington was attended by 500 people, including negotiators that helped restore bilateral relations. As for the U.S. Embassy in Havana, an opening ceremony has been pushed back until August, when U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is scheduled to make what will be a truly historic visit there. Citizens in both countries welcomed the openings, as the nations are expected to see a boost in bilateral tourism and trade as well in the near future. Despite the breakthrough, many thorny issues do remain, namely Cuba's human rights abuses and its will to maintain a tight grip on its state-run economy. The corruption-ridden governing body of world football says a presidential election will be held on February 26th next year to elect a successor to Sepp Blatter. The announcement came as FIFA's executive committee met in Zurich. Now, Blatter also announced a range of reforms, saying an 11-person task force would be set up to develop the proposals that he has laid out. But the press conference will probably be best remembered for this moment of comedy. British comedian Simon Brodkin, playing the character of footballer Jason Bent, threw a bundle of fake banknotes over Blatter, saying the money was, quote, for North Korea 2026. He was quickly removed, as you can see, from the venue by security guards. Korea and Honduras have agreed to boost energy cooperation. The deal, which was struck at a summit in Seoul on Monday, is expected to resolve the severe power shortages felt in the Central American country and also help both sides meet their greenhouse gas resolution goals. Our Chae-sun. reports.
The Honduran economy is one of the weakest in Central America, recording a GDP of $19 billion last year. With the country greatly lacking infrastructure, many Hondurans suffer from a chronic shortage of electricity. Celebrating 53 years of diplomatic ties, Korea and Honduras agreed to join efforts to improve the power supply system in the Central American country. Some of the methods include establishing an eco-friendly village that is energy self-sufficient, reducing power loss during electricity distribution, and supplying electric vehicles. Honduras is also interested in the Korea-based Green Climate Fund project to produce electricity from methane gas found in landfills. At a joint leaders conference in Seoul, President Park Geun-hye said while considering their mutually beneficial trade structures, the two sides agreed to actively spur trade and investment and increase joint energy infrastructure projects. While the deal will help both sides to develop expertise in the field of new energy, it's also expected to assist them in fulfilling their pledges in greenhouse gas emissions. With its energy initiatives in countries like Honduras, Korea hopes to garner international approval to fulfill its reduction pledge of 37% relative to a level forecast by the year 2030. Korea has also agreed to share its knowledge from the Saemaul Undong, or New Community Movement in the 1970s, to develop and modernize the Honduran rural economy and continue to support Honduras' Special Economic Zone project for job creation. 최유선, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's rapidly aging population and extremely low birth rate is a growing and real concern that presents a great many challenges to the country's workforce, especially over the coming decades. And experts warn that Korea's economy is going to start looking increasingly bleak if the trend continues. Won Ji-hyun reports.
15 to 64. That's the average age range for Korea's working population. But in recent years, Korea's been seeing alarming growth in the number of seniors over the age of 65. Experts say the population shift could take a major toll on the country's economic prospects in the future. Ahead of an economic seminar to be hosted by Korea's Finance Ministry on Tuesday, Professor Kim Jung-ho of Aju University said Korea's fast-aging population could reduce the country's potential economic growth rate to 0.8% by the year 2060. The professor cited Japan as an example. The country saw its productivity rate drop to the 0% range in the 1990s due to its rapidly aging population. He also predicted that Korea's elderly population will surge by 2060 to make up 37% of the entire population, just like Japan. He added that Korea will continue to age fast, even if the country's birth rate recovers to reach the OECD average. Instead, Professor Kim stressed that Korea should focus on expanding its job market and increasing productivity by advancing technology, business innovation, and industrial relations. In addition, other experts suggest that Korea must improve its welfare and pension systems and ease immigration policies to increase the country's workforce. Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Now, the MERS outbreak that had Korea on edge for a few weeks seems to be virtually over, with all that remains being an official declaration that the virus has been eradicated in the country. Well over 2 weeks have passed since the last confirmed case, and no MERS-related deaths have been reported in 9 days now. On top of this, the hospital in southern Seoul, most affected by MERS, is now back up and running normally. Connie Kim reports.
With the outbreak of the Middle East respiratory syndrome nearing an apparent end, all 15 hospitals under close MERS watch are now back to operating normally. Samsung Medical Center in southern Seoul, considered the epicenter of the virus, is fully operational as of Monday after lifting its partial temporary shutdown that lasted more than a month. 91 people, nearly half of total MERS patients, were confirmed to have contracted the disease while at the hospital. Seoul's MERS response headquarters said no additional traces of the virus were detected in hospital wards and the emergency rooms where MERS-confirmed patients were treated. Adding to the good news, the National Medical Center, on the forefront of quarantine and treatment of MERS patients, has also started to receive outpatients and patients for hospitalization. With Korea seemingly back on track to recovery before the outbreak, the government promoted Korea's need to normalize all personal exchanges during a briefing session for the diplomatic corps in Seoul on Monday. Seoul's foreign ministry said Korea is now safe from the virus, as no additional MERS patients had been confirmed for about 2 months since the first case. It noted no foreign tourist was infected with the disease in the country. The first MERS patient was confirmed in late May, and since then, 186 people have been confirmed with the virus, with 36 deaths. With the figures remaining unchanged for more than a week, officials say it could signal the end for the MERS outbreak as early as next month. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now the search for alien life is about to get a lot more serious. Russian billionaire Yuri Milner has announced plans to spend $100 million hunting for intelligent life in our universe. Speaking in London on Monday alongside cosmologist Stephen Hawking, Milner said the so-called Breakthrough Listen project would be the biggest scientific search of its kind so far. Run by a team of researchers at the University of California, the 10-year project will use the world's best telescopes to carry out state-of-the-art radio and optical surveys to study nearby stars and galaxies for signs of alien civilizations. The project will examine the 1 million stars closest to Earth and listen for messages from the 100 closest galaxies to our own. And this will be covering 10 times more of the sky than previous programs, and will do so 100 times faster. Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Stay tuned for Business Daily. That's coming up at 8 a.m. Korea time. We'll be back with our next newscast at noon. Until then, goodbye.